At the beginning of everything, a very beautiful girl is born in a hospital ward, and some time later, she is eating ice cream with her friends, when suddenly one of the girls notices some cream on her face and tells her about it. Then Mona wipes the cream off her cheek and gives an angelic smile, leaving everyone blushing with her cuteness. And at another moment, while they are playing tag, one of the boys goes up to Moni and asks her to catch him, which goes against the spirit of the game where everyone should run away from her. But instead, everyone approaches her, asking the girl to catch them. And at that moment, Mona begins to describe herself as a queen bee because she always stands out wherever she goes. And after a few years, she wakes up early to her alarm clock ringing and then runs to school. At that moment, everyone around turns their necks to look at her because they are amazed by Mona's beauty. And when she arrives at school, the ass-kissing continues because everyone stops what they are doing just to wish her a good morning, who in turn responds to everyone. Then she goes to the classroom where she finds a boy named Kuroiwa Medaka, and then she wishes him good morning. But unlike the others, the boy has a slightly more downbeat aura and answers her without a smile on his face like the other students were doing. And upon seeing that he is different from the others, Mona doesn't understand anything and tries to bring up another subject with him, hoping to see him falling at her feet like everyone else. At this point, she comments on the fact that he is not wearing a uniform and asks how he managed to enter the classroom like that. Meanwhile, the other boys in the classroom are jealous when they see Medaka receiving all that attention from Mona. But on the other hand, Medaka doesn't like this interaction at all and tells the girl to leave him alone. Upon hearing this, Mona becomes even more confused because him despising her presence is already something that doesn't make the slightest sense in her head. So she decides to take a peek at what the boy is seeing on his cell phone and discovers that he likes cats. At this point, Mona tries to approach him a more playful way, making cat gestures and trying to be cute. When checking Medaka's facial reactions, Mona notices that he at least showed a less dead reaction. But soon after, he tells her to stop talking to him unless the subject is really necessary. And upon hearing more of this refusal, Mona becomes even more uncomfortable. Then she remembers the various phases of her life, and since childhood, she has always been everyone's favorite, in addition to receiving several confessions. Therefore, Mona has become accustomed to always receiving attention and adoration from everyone around her. And upon realizing that Medaka does not show the slightest interest in her, even though she tries very hard, Mona runs away upset. And sometime later, she decides to go further by climbing a ladder and showing her legs in the hope of getting the boy's attention. However, even with all this provocation, Medaka pretends not to see and simply walks past her, ignoring her. The girl, totally frustrated with this Cinderella who doesn't care about her, becomes destabilized by his attitude and ends up falling into the floor, takes advantage of the situation to try to make the boy react in some way. Not even that makes him stop and pay attention. Instead, he continues on his way, swearing that he didn't see anything she tried to show him. Going to class, everything goes normally until suddenly Mona tells Miguel that she's feeling sick and asks to go to the infirmary. The teacher then asks for someone to accompany her and a girl gets up to help her. However, Mona acts quickly, throwing herself on top of Medaka and asking him to go with her. As soon as they reach a more private place, she corners him against the wall. Medaka soon realizes that she's never been sick. Meanwhile, Mona reveals that the nurse is always absent at that time of day, which means they'll have some time alone. Trying to seduce him, Mona starts to feel bad about herself. After all, Medaka is the first man who's made her go so far just to get his approval. Faced with that embarrassing situation, Mona asks him how he feels about her, because the fact that he is always cold makes her believe that Medaka hates her. He then clarifies that he doesn't hate her or anything like that. Noticing that he looks a little red with the situation, Mona considers this a victory. But soon after, Medaka shows her usual cold expression again. Determined not to give up, she pulls him to the bed to continue the conversation. However, in the middle of this, he pushes her and they both end up falling together on the bed. Even with her on top of him, Medaka still looks at her with a certain contempt. This makes her more paranoid because for her, there is no way her charms could be so ineffective. Especially because Mona sees herself as a true queen bee who should be able to attract anyone she wants. Seeing that there is no other way out, she decides to go for her last card and ends up showing him the airbags. Having done this, Mona hopes that this will be enough to finally win Medaka over. But instead he keeps composure and doesn't let any inappropriate thoughts take over her mind. When she realizes that not even that worked, Mona starts crying indignantly. Rolling to the edge of the bed, then Medaka, already foreseeing that she will fall, he rushes to rescue her. But as soon as Mona is supported, she becomes embarrassed for being so close to him with their faces practically glued. She then asks Medaka to get off her because that is showing too much. He also becomes embarrassed and makes it clear that he had no wrong intentions towards her. Having said that, he leaves the infirmary covering his face in shame. But soon after he returns and suggests that Mona protect herself and show her body only to someone she really likes. Seeing the outcome of all this, the girl realizes that she started to like him more than the other way around. But soon after, she doesn't understand why she liked this situation so much. After a while, Mona returns to the classroom and is surrounded by the other students who ask if she is okay. She answers yes and goes back to sitting in her wallet. As soon as she thanks Medaka for her help, Mona realizes that she can't look him in the eye and wonders about it. After all, this feeling is almost as if she's starting to like him. In view of this, Mona decides on a new goal for her life. She will do everything to win his heart. The next day, when she returns to school, she tries to talk to him again. However, Medaka exchanges few words with her and then goes back to ignoring her as usual. In addition, when she passes by a girl, the girl looks at him and blushes too. In physical education class, Mona tries to get his attention by doing some stretches wearing a somewhat tight outfit and asks the boy to join her in the exercises. However, he continues to ignore her. Seeing that she hasn't made any progress so far, Mona thinks of another strategy to get his attention. She then lifts her shirt, exposing her belly button, hoping that he will notice her. Seeing her like this, Medaka quickly turns her back to keep her mind free of thoughts inappropriate. Mona, upon noticing that he had left, decided to follow him. On the way, she tried to convince herself that she was not going after him because of him, but out of pure curiosity about the guy who could resist her charms. As soon as she reached the water fountain where Medaka was, she approached the tap and started drinking water, with no intention of getting his attention. However, this time Medaka looked at her with a different, softer look, but soon turned her back, avoiding eye contact for a long time. Mona noticed this subtle change in his gaze and decided to provoke him a little more by pouring water on his clothes. As soon as she saw her shirt sticking to her body, Medaka blushed while Mona realized that she had gone too far in trying to gain Medaka's approval and ended up feeling embarrassed. Then Medaka took off her own shirt and covered it to prevent anyone from seeing more than they should. Mona then goes back to being all silly with this gesture of his. Later, while walking home, Medaka is approached by two classmates who criticize him for always treating Mona rudely, even more so because she is just trying to be nice to him. The three stop at a park to talk better, and then Medaka reveals that he will be the heir to a sacred temple. For this reason, he was forbidden from getting too close to girls because he needs to keep his spirit pure and free from inappropriate thoughts. Upon hearing this, his classmates deduce that Medaka has never had a girlfriend. He then explains that he spent his entire life living only with old people and goats in his house. Because of this, he never knew how he should interact with girls. With this explanation, the two finally understand why Medaka treated Mona that way. Meanwhile, Medaka remembers that the only cute girls he has ever seen were the ones who appeared on TV. That is why he feels that being in the city will be a real challenge since the place is full of temptations. His classmates suggest that he at least try treat Mona a little better because that won't condemn her spirit in any way. Upon hearing this, Medaka says that she will try to follow their advice. However, in his mind, he feels completely confused about whether to continue interacting with Mona or not. He knows that if he continues to keep in touch with her, he could end up falling in love, which for him would be the end. Because his life is entirely dedicated to religion, which by the way prohibits any kind of romantic involvement. He then remembers the moments he spent with her and soon realizes that impure thoughts begin to invade his mind. For a moment he imagines himself going on a date with her, but soon after forces himself to push these thoughts away. Seeing this, his classmates finally understand why Medaka always makes that disgusted face. In fact, he is just trying to keep his mind clear and get rid of any improper ideas. Meanwhile, Medaka explains that she decided to enroll in a school to train her mind to resist any kind of impure stimulus. The next day, Mona goes to him once again and returns the shirt he had lent her the day before previous. Medaka keeps her serious expression as always, but Mona gets close to her ear and whispers, asking if she should have returned the shirt with her perfume. At that moment, the boy almost loses control, trying to clear his mind of any dirty thoughts. Meanwhile, Mona gets even more excited to make him fall in love and promises that she will not give up on this goal. The next day, Mona wakes up and gets ready to go to school. Just like before, people continue to stare at every step she takes. After all, the magic of the queen bee is still going strong. When she arrives at school during art class, she is approached by the same boys as always. Just like before, they continue to compliment her appearance, saying how charming she is. However, Mona doesn't give a damn about them because her attention is completely focused on Medaka. She then calls him and asks what he thinks of the pose she is doing. When looking at her, Medaka quickly looks away and tries to focus on keeping her mind clear. Now that's it. If you want to continue, leave it in the comments. Subscribe and comment on an anime you want me to bring to the channel. Until next time.